I present some strategies here that I have applied in my classes with my students. And I also bring some ideas from other educators who are really important to support this study and how we connect with our students and how we can support them as best as we can. So to start, I have a warm-up question. So as an ESL teacher, I think as an ESL teachers, we always ask questions to our students before we start our class. And I always like to do that too when I'm offering teacher development. So I would like you to tell me, please, where are you from? And please tell me also if English is your first or second language, and how many languages do you speak? How many languages do you speak? And do you teach English language learners? So who are English language learners? English language learners are all the students, the people who are learning English as a second language. English is not their first language, right?
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt you. Your voice is very low, ma'am.
I'm sorry?
Your voice is very low, ma'am.
Oh.
We can't hear you well, dear.
Can you hear me better now?
No, ma'am, no.
No, I'm so sorry because my sound is...
It's very low, ma'am. It's very low. We couldn't hear anything.
I'm so sorry. Let me try to...
Dr. Galvao, it's fine. I can hear you well. They can try to maybe log out and come back again. And please type in the chat. Do not interrupt. We're live. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I see here some people said, hello, I'm from Mauritius. Wow. India, second language, and speaks 3 languages. And we have English as a second language from Mauritius. My mother tongue is Spanish. I speak 3 languages too. Wow, amazing. So this is so interesting. I asked this exactly to know how you feel as an English language learner, right? For some of us, I am an English language learner. I was one in Brazil, and I still consider myself one because I live in a country where English is my second language. So I'm learning all the time, right? And I think it's so interesting to understand how we feel and think about our students. How will they feel in certain situations, in certain activities that we apply, that we ask them to do, right? So first language. So we have many second language speakers here and people who speak more than 2 languages. So that's very interesting. So, and who already teaches English as a second language to English language learners? So let's see, please type in the chat if you teach English, exclusively English to English language learners. Students who have not had learned English before coming to school or to your classes. So English is second language and I can speak 4 languages. Wow, that's amazing, right? So the next questions are, so where are your students from and what languages do they speak? So for example, when I was living in Brazil, my students were mainly from Brazil and they spoke my native language. They spoke my mother tongue. So we all spoke the same language. We all spoke Portuguese as a first language. So I was teaching English as a second language, and my students were also learning English as a second language, actually as a foreign language, because in Brazil, we don't even speak English as a second language. We speak English as a foreign language. They're starting a bilingual education program there. I mean, not starting, they're getting stronger And so I think soon the country will actually start to be considered a second English as a second, a country that speaks English as a second language because of the number of people learning English and all the children who are going, who are learning English as a second language also. So I have here, my English students are from Indonesia. They speak Indonesian and also Chinese. They speak Mandarin. Awesome. Students are from France, Mauritius, China. And wow, that's amazing. I'm so glad to see all this diversity and see all these experiences. So moving to my next slide. Why did I ask those questions? Especially because, as I said before, as maybe ourselves as English learners, right? We know how important it is to bring content, to bring home language to the classroom. Even though we're teaching English, we can bring the students' home language to the classroom. We can support these students. But why do we do that, right? We want to validate their feelings. We want them to feel seen and valued, right? We want them to feel that their identity is important. Their culture is important. Their values are important, right? And also their knowledge, their background knowledge. Because when our students come to us, the students come with all the previous knowledge, with everything that they learned before, right? For example, as a second language speaker, I sometimes have trouble remembering some words. I don't know them in English, but I know them in my mother language, in my native language, right? So that doesn't mean that I don't have a knowledge. So as teachers, we should validate that. We should value. We should use that knowledge in the classroom. Ask questions and scaffold and support our students so they can feel valued and seen, right? So as teachers, we have to learn, we should learn who our students are. And by doing that, what are we doing? We are actually making space for our students to learn from each other. And if they learn from each other and about each other, we create a space where everybody feels valued and they respect each other's languages, they respect each other's cultures, and they dialogue and they want to learn more about that culture. One thing that I love about giving this space to the students so they can talk to each other and talk about their language is that students who have not learned a second language or a third language, they become interested. They want to learn more, right? And how can we do that? Through reading, for example. If we are teachers, but we don't have readings, we don't have books in our students' home language, we can talk to the school administration. We can talk to staff, to the principal, to the school community, and make sure that we have books available for our students so they can see books and read books in their languages at school. And I brought this quote from España and Herrera, where they say, school should be a place where all kids can feel validated, one that does not feel widely separated from home, and where children can choose to be their fullest selves. So if students know that they're being seen, that their culture is respected, their values are important, and their knowledge also is important, they feel that they can feel their full selves, and they can also feel that they belong. And that's so important when we talk about, especially about newcomers, students who come to the US, for example, and they don't speak English yet. They are newcomers, and but sometimes they don't talk to other students. They feel shy, and it's so important that the teacher creates that environment where the student feels that the students feel that they're valued. So when I'm going to bring some strategies for reading. And so when I say home language, I'm going to also be talking about minority language, right? It's a language spoken by a group of people who form a minority within a country, for example. Or that language has a large population that speaks it, but it's still a minority because it's still a second language. It's not the first language in that country. Okay, so the first thing that a teacher should, who wants to support students through reading in their home language should do is think about acquiring books. So for example, in our local library here, we don't have many books in different languages. So I actually feel that need for books in Portuguese, for example. So how is it in your school, for example? Do you have books in the student's home language? Do you have books that talk about the student's culture in their home language? And why is that important? As a second language learner, a student feels that when the student walks into the library and sees a book in his or her language, it's so important. They feel like they're welcome. They see something that speaks to their heart. And it's so important. I felt like that in many situations. It's not only about the books that we have in our home language. It's also when we see something that relates to our culture, something that relates to food, for example, to a food that we eat that's from our country. That's something that relates to our identity and makes us feel comforted. It's good. And when it comes to learning, that helps the student to prepare more and more for learning when the student have that support in his or her home language. So it's really important to have this conversation with the school, to ask them to acquire books. So you can make a...
Please mute yourself.
Okay, so as a teacher, you can make a list of the titles. It's important that you know who your students are, what languages they speak, and then you make a list. You make a list with titles of books in your students' home language. So you can do that by talking to parents, knowing who your students are, who your families are. And it's also important that school administration knows that. It's important that the principal knows. It's important that the school has interest in learning who the families are, the languages they speak, so they can also create a library that supports the students and families' home language. So you, as a teacher, you can talk to the librarian. You can ask the librarian, for example, do you know any titles in Portuguese, for example? Do you know any titles in Chinese, in Mandarin, in languages that you have students from those countries? So you can ask a librarian if that person has some suggestions for you. If they don't, you just go and search and ask your students, ask the families, what books do you read in your home country? And that's so important. There are some foundations too that can donate books to schools, and you know about local foundations, for example. You could reach out to them and ask for that kind of support and have those books, because it's really important that our students know that when they go to the library, they find those books. Another thing that's really important to support when we talk about supporting English language learners, it's the partnership between the teacher. When I say the teacher is a general education teacher, for example, in elementary school, or a high school teacher, that can partner with an ESL teacher to support the teacher. So it's really important. This conversation has to be like something that happens often. The teacher, the general education teacher, has this opportunity to meet with the ESL teacher and talk and discuss what books are important to they could read with the students. Also, the ESL teacher, like in my case, I don't speak the language that my students speak, for example. If I don't speak their language, I usually have the help of a bilingual facilitator. And since most of my students are Hispanic, I understand a lot of what they say, but I can't communicate with them because Portuguese is close to Spanish, but I am not fluent in Spanish. I understand when I read, when I listen, but I can't speak. I say some sentences. And what I do is I have the support of the bilingual facilitator. And also it's important that the ESL teacher knows who the parents are and what languages they speak, because it's so important to have this relationship, to have this knowledge about who you are serving. And also the bilingual volunteers could be the parents, because it's so important to have this, how can I say, this interaction, right? And also the students. And if it's an elementary school, for example, you're teaching kindergartners, elementary school students, who are newcomers, they really need that support, that conversation, and that partnership from teachers, ESL teachers, and bilingual facilitators to support them. So I bring here one strategy. For example, if you're reading a children's book, try to find that same children's book in the student's home language. If you have students who speak different languages in the same classroom, you can do that. Like you can create a schedule, for example, and each story you will find a book in one group home language. For example, I could read a book to my students in English and in Spanish, or in English and in Portuguese. So it's important to find the same title. If you can find the same title, a bilingual book where you read both in both languages. So here, for example, the teacher reads the story aloud in English. Okay, so the teacher tells the story or reads the story. When I say reads, it can also be storytelling. It can be also just telling the students a story using cards, using flashcards to show images. So teacher reads the story aloud in English. And in here, I suggest that, for example, you have a parent volunteer. One of the parents come to the class and reads in the target language. And then the teacher asks questions about the story and the students answer. And these answers can be in English and in the student's first language, in the student's home language. And so then the students do a vocabulary activity. The teacher chooses words according to the student's needs. Students can also play a memory game with images and words from the story. And the teacher can also play a spelling game where the teacher shows an image from the story and asks the students to say the word and spell that word. And how often could we do that? You don't need to do that every class. You can do that once a week. You can do that according to your schedule, because you may not have a parent volunteer every week in your class, or that person is not available. I'm saying a person who speaks the language, right? Because the parent volunteers come weekly, but maybe the person who speaks the language, the target language for that class, the person cannot be there every week. So you can create a schedule and ask the parents, if we have 3 languages in the classroom, students who speak 3 different languages in the classroom, you can ask them to come in different days and read the same story. So you're exposing your students to a diversity of languages. They're learning in the same story in different languages. The other students are seeing that it's so important, and they are interested and they want to learn. They become interested and they want to learn more about the languages. And you create an environment where everybody feels that they belong. Another strategy is reading Star of the Month. So you can choose one of your English language learners to be the Star of the Month. So that student will read in his or her home language if he already reads. Okay, when I'm saying this, it's like we're already talking about students who already reads in their home language. If they don't, you can create strategies like the student can sing a song in their home language for kindergartners, for example. An activity where the students bring their home language to the class and everything is connected to the content already. The most important thing here is to give the student a place, a voice, and have a positive impact in that student's life. And so, for example, for the student who's going to read and be the Star of the Month, that student will present a story in his home language, and then another student will present the same story, will read the same story in English. And then the students talk to each other, they ask questions, and of course, reading aloud and in front of a group can be intimidating for the students. So you talk to them about it before, you explain to them how it's going to work. And for those who are really shy and don't feel comfortable yet to speak in front of a group, you can put them in small groups too. So that's one of the strategies that the students could use, right? And we as teachers can use. Okay, so let's go to the next one. How am I with time? I'm not actually checking my time here, Sola, or anybody could tell me, please.
You're doing fine, Doctor. Please carry on.
Thank you. All right. So the next strategy would be like for an intervention teacher. So I work as an intervention teacher. So what do? I come to the classroom, I do pushing activities, right? So I come to the classroom and I support the general education teacher. So I am an ESL teacher that comes and sits in the classroom with the students. I walk around, I see what they're doing. I give them instructions. I make sure that they understand what they're reading. And I also try to get as much as I can of information of what they need to learn so I can support them. So as an intervention teacher, that's my role. And I also have time when I bring a little group to my classroom and I talk to my students and I teach reading and I talk to them about something they like, or we play a game. But mostly everything is focused on what they're learning in the classroom in general education. So I'm a support. I'm a teacher that supports them. So one thing that I used to do, and I still do with my students, is I bring a book, a bilingual book, let's suppose a Dr. Seuss book, and they read the book in Spanish to me. Because first I want to know how do they read in Spanish? For example, a 4th grader or a 5th grader, I ask them to read the story in Spanish. And it's so interesting. I love that when the students see the book, they see the title of the book in their language, in their home language, it's like they want to hug the book. So I love that because I know exactly how they feel. And so once they read the story in their home language, I read in English to them after they read in Spanish, for example. So I read to them in English. And then we talk And I try to talk to them as much as I can. I try to ask them to answer as much as they can in English, but I know that they're not ready yet. Some of them are newcomers. They understand me, but they can't speak yet. So I usually try to say, answer in Spanish. That's fine. I understand you. So they bring me the answers, and I know they're learning. It's not only because they read in their home language, but it's because they understood what I wanted them to do, because they understood my question, right? So it's really important to see those stages and understand them. Sometimes the student will listen to you, will try to say something, but the student's not ready yet. The student is still learning, right? So make sure you scaffold, you show images, you ask questions pointing to an image, for example, so the student can answer, or use the home language book to show a sentence in that book and you ask a question in English, so the student has an answer there. The student also shows comprehension in their home language, and that's fine. The most important thing is they understood the content. They know what they're saying, right? It's meaningful to them. And so in this case, I ask my students to read the story in their home language, and then I read the same story in English, and then we work on a vocabulary activity, or we do grammar there. For example, if there is something that, if the book is full of, for example, plurals. Once I had a book that was, I don't remember the title, it was like 1, 2, 3, something like that. And there were many animals in the story. So that was an opportunity for me to teach plural. So I read to my student, and she also read it. And then I wrote the words, the nouns in English on the board, and I was teaching how to make the plural of those nouns. So, and then also they love games. You can create a game based on the story. There are so many printable games online too, or you can buy a book that's full of ideas for games with reading activities. So that's really helpful. The students really feel like it's not that they go to your class and they don't know anything. They can't communicate with you. They can, because their home language supports them. And we know that research shows that students transfer the knowledge from their native language to English. So they are going to learn English. It might take longer for some students. It might be super quick for others, but they will learn. So don't worry, don't think that, but I'm using home language, they're not going to learn English. They're going to transfer that knowledge. And once they read in 2 languages, what happens? They're connecting. They might, while I'm reading to them, or when I ask them to read in English too, because I want to check their English, because I didn't mention that before, right? I can also ask them to read in English. If they're prepared, if I feel that it's a good moment for them, they will read both stories, both books in English and in their language. And so we can check how their English is at that moment and teach them pronunciation, teach them how things are, how the words are connected to each other, the use of a preposition, something like that. So it's really interesting to bring the home language, because the most important thing is you're showing your students that you care and that you value their background knowledge, something that they already know. So I found this amazing book that's called, the title is En Comunidad, Lessons for Centering the Voices and Experiences of Bilingual Latinx Students by España and Herrera. And these educators, they give lots of ideas. If you read the book, you get so many ideas on how to work with students validating their home language, how to bring families to school and activities to do. So I love this, their quote that says, celebrate bilingual Latinx practices, and plan content, curriculum, texts, and methods from the perspective of the bilingual learner. So when we do that, what are we doing? We are validating. We are thinking about our students. Maybe we are in a general classroom where we have 30 students and only 2 are bilingual, but still we have to think they're there, right? But it's only 2 students. No, they're there, they're students, they should have the services they need. So we need to plan that class thinking how we're going to better serve them and how we can bring their knowledge to teach the other students and to create this environment where the students feel that they belong, all the students. Like they say in the quote that I said previously, all the students should be seen and valued, all of them, right? And we bring this perspective from the bilingual learner because we know that's more challenging for them to acquire the language. It's going to take more time for them to learn. And by doing that, when we plan thinking about the students, about how they would feel and what the content, how to make the content more accessible and more meaningful to them, we are saying you belong here, right? We're saying, yes, this is the right place. You are in the right classroom, and I am being I'm being the best teacher I can, and I really want you to learn, right? So when we do that, we send a message, not only to the students, but to the families too. When we bring parents to volunteer to read in the classroom, we are telling them, you are special. We want to hear. You are part of our community. And maybe those parents, they are newcomers. They're here in the country. They haven't been here for too long. And they feel special. There's a place for them to go one day in the morning and share what they know, right? And to contribute. And that's when learning happens. When any person, not only our students, but any person, when they feel that they can not only learn, but they can also contribute. They can share and exchange knowledge. So that's when real learning, real adaptation, real transition happen. Because as a person who moved to a different country, there are so many things going on, right? So that transition can be very difficult for some people. So if the school is a place where everybody has a space, has a voice, right? They will feel that they have a community, they have a place to go and talk to people. And that's so special, that's so important. And your classroom can be that space, right? So I have some the references here, and thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm really impressed with what Christina has said, and I'm thinking, you know, we are so far from each other, but we are really, and really our topic on the one hand, they are different topics, but really the essence is exactly the same, because the essence is really how to make sure that learners learn, yes? And also what Christina said about you know, making the learners feel well in the classroom, feel included, feel heard. This is you know, my topic is about assessment. Assessment doesn't bring good associations, yes, the word, but my whole point, yes, it's, you know, I'm interested in this topic of formative assessment, formative feedback particularly, for these exact reasons that Christine mentioned, that you know, it's all about the giving the learners some voice, yes, and hearing them and letting them be included. So it's, you know, it's great. It was great to hear that, and I'm happy. You know, we are really, you know, we are speaking the same language. We are speaking English, but we are also speaking the same teacher's language. Yes. Yeah. formative assessment. So maybe, well, you've heard the sort of formal introduction of my experience. So yes, I'm a teacher of English as a foreign language. I have experience teaching on all the levels, and also right now, I don't want to mention, well, it has been mentioned how many years I've been teaching, I can't believe that, but the experience of teaching English to students on different levels goes hand in hand with teacher training, yes, teaching students how to teach, teaching pre-service students how to teach English, and teaching in service, or developing, giving in development, forms of in-service development to teachers. And within all those, within all these different, like events, forms of development, of course, there are thousands and thousands of topics, but the topic of assessment always comes back. I don't know, I mean, I would like to, it would be really fantastic to really talk to everyone. I'm sure there are, because there are so many people, I don't really know how many, but, and Christina already made sure that we know more or less who is here from different countries all over. And again, I know we have different experiences, but I also have a feeling that we also share experiences in terms of assessment. We might be sharing experiences. If you would like to mention that, I mean, your point of view in the chat box about how the attitude to assessment in your country, yes? So, because so my starting point really is that there is normally, I mean, okay, first of all, of course, the context in Poland, the context in which I'm working is totally different from Christina's, because I'm working with students and teachers with whom I share the mother tongue, yes? So, we all speak Polish. There is really no issue of, no experience of situation of people speaking different languages as a first. It's changing now, but it's not a big percentage yet. So even though the contexts are different, I'm sure the attitude to assessment is similar in terms of all the authorities requiring. Is it the same in your countries? Authorities requiring tests, formal tests. Give the students marks. Give them some percentage. Let's see how the diagrams change from year to year. Let's compare the schools. Let's compare the teachers who has the higher value. And we all know, well, okay, maybe this is necessary for some sort of report, some sort of research overview, but really it doesn't do much for learning. Yes, what we want the learning to happen, and formative assessment naturally is what fosters learning. And I have half an hour, of course I won't be able to say, and that's not really the point, yes, to mention all the aspects, but I'm such a firm believer in all kinds of formative techniques in the classroom, and this includes the English language classroom and also the teacher training classroom, that where we can have the connection with the students and make sure that they understand our assessment. So I'm sure you have, I feel a bit maybe shy speaking here in front of such a professional audience, feeling that I'm sure you know everything that I'm going to talk about, but like I said, I feel this is such a valid topic that sometimes we might be forgetting, and sometimes maybe teachers with someone with shorter experience would like to be reminded about, and so on. So like formative assessment, I love this way of calling formative assessment for learning. I'm sure you have come across this term, assessment for learning. This is really this is really the essence. Yes, okay, we are assessing, so we are giving some information, but this is all to foster learning. we all know there are books and all kinds of research written about formative assessment. It has all kinds of components. Here I included the main ones, you know, like making sure that the lesson names are known, that the success criteria are well established and familiar to the students, feedback, yes, feedback in English teaching, in teacher training, to students, from students, definitely both ways. Peer assessment, self-assessment, not only teacher assessment, yes, and the general viewpoint, you know, the person who assesses is the teacher. We all know, of course, it's, you know, it's just a small element of assessment conducted by the teacher. Asking key questions that bring the learning answers, yes, cooperative learning, cooperation with parents. I'm not going to talk about all of that today. I'm going to give a few ideas, yes, a few kind of things to talk about, techniques, ideas, points in relation to lesson aims, success criteria, and mainly feedback to the students and from the students, yes, the feedback. So I'm going to, in talking about feedback, I'm going to share some techniques where, you know, there are tons of them. So I will share some material where you can test all kinds of techniques, and I will try to use one of them with you. Hopefully it will work. So, okay, formative assessment, all those components, all those aspects, but nothing will work. Nothing will work if, nothing will work if we don't focus on learner training, so we don't give students some tools to learn, yes? And even more importantly, the rapport, the atmosphere, the communication. So this is what's been mentioned in the first talk, yes? The communication, the contact with the students. It's not just, it's me, the teacher, telling you, the students, this is good, this is bad, but kind of letting you know what's happening so that, you know, you can respond to it and we can work together, yes? So, for example, for lesson aims, again, you know, in our Polish context, there is this tendency of, I mean, for the past few years, because, okay, the topic of formative assessment, more or less, you know, ever since John Hattie, you know, conducted the meta-analysis and made it so known to the whole world that feedbackness is such a, formative feedback is such an important element of achievement in language learning. Ever since then, Polish authorities have been stressing a lot. Okay, make, you know, all the components, yes, the sort of formal components of formative assessment. So make sure you communicate your lesson aims, make sure you communicate the success criteria, make sure your students know them. Okay, of course, we know this is all very important, but very often it comes down to, you know, the teachers just telling the students, today in the lesson, we are going to talk about we are going to have a conversation in the shop. We will talk about different fruits and vegetables, and you will learn how to buy and how to give money, give change, and so on. And this is, you know, the students don't listen to it. Sometimes even, you know, with some headmasters even tend to ask, you know, when they go and observe a teacher, they tend to want to see those aims written on the board. Well, often in the first, well, this is actually understandable probably if the students are on a low level, that they are in the mother tongue, that they are in Polish, written on the board, copied in the student's notebook, or pasted, you know, the teacher gives out the little card, the students paste it in the notebook. We can say, okay, fantastic, the students know the aims. But do they? Yes, it's really, okay, just the very fact that the teacher kind of recited the aims to the students. This is what we are going to do. Listen, a copy of, it's, you know, it takes like 5-7 minutes of precious lessons in Poland last 45 minutes, yes? So every minute is very precious. And it just takes all these minutes and really nothing happens. And most students don't really pay attention to that, especially when they know, okay, now she is now giving the answer, we just have to copy it. I don't have to think about it. So a way to make, because of course, from the methodology perspective, yes, I don't want to say that we don't want to give aims. Yes, of course, it's very important, first of all, for the teacher to know what we are doing, why we are doing it, what's the point, yes? Lesson planning. And the students must be aware of it, yes, but what about doing it in this way? For example, just, if I show you, look, students, look, what do you see here? Yes, what do you see? If you are my students, you would be saying, I don't really have access to the, I don't want to make it longer, and I'm sure you know the idea, but if you want, you can write it in the chat box. Well, what do you see? Yes, you see fruit, you see vegetables. We can talk, I can ask specific questions. What kind of fruit? What kind of vegetables? Maybe already, the students will say, I see vinogrono, but I don't know what it's called in English. So I will say, well, that's grapes. Yes. So, and look at this. This is also something. What's this? A shopping list. Yes. So what do you put? Do you use shop? What do you put on the shopping list? And look, this is well, money. How much money do you see? Yes. And look, and in our lesson, our lesson is going to be connected to these pictures, and we are also going to do some listening and some speaking. Yes, listening and speaking. So now maybe, do you think? Okay, I can see some questions here. Maybe I understand we will be referring to questions at the end. Yes, so no, because now I opened the chat box and I see questions. So that's the, okay, so what do you think? What's the lesson going to be about? Can somebody maybe, yeah, at the end of the presentation, okay, the questions. What's the lesson going to be about? So now we have this introduction, fruit, vegetables, yes, the shopping list, money, we'll be listening, we'll be speaking. What's the aim of the lesson? Anybody? Okay, there's somebody's asking if it's just started. It's this. Okay, all right. Look, so okay, in our lesson, yes, we'll be talking about fruit, vegetables. They will be using some money, and there will be a shopping list. So of course, we'll be talking in a shop, so the lesson will probably evolve around a conversation like this. Yes, can I help you? And I see some, yeah, going shopping, exactly. Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, shopping, especially like shopping for fruit, vegetables, yes? So the kind of typical stuff that's done in the classroom, and but already, what happens here? We used some minutes for this introduction, but we already it was already some kind of a warm-up. It was already involving the students. It already gave them the chance to review some vocabulary for the activity, for the rest of the lesson, learn some new vocabulary, like if they don't know some of the names of the fruit, vegetables. Preparing lunch, yes, of course. We need to buy stuff to make lunch, of course. That's also the lesson. I see a comment here. The part, it helps us to know what students actually was. It also helps us, of course. Yeah, that's very true. In the chat. So yes, letting the students know what the lesson is about, but using the time in an active way, yes, involving the learners and already exposing them to English. You know, in the context like ours, where we are learning and teaching English as a foreign language. It's not a second language, yes. Well, English is spoken widely in Poland, but as a second language, as a foreign language, we don't hear it in the street, yes. So all the exposure in the classroom is valuable. It's necessary. Yes, the students have to hear a lot of English and use a lot of English, because out of the classroom, well, yes, of course, they can turn on TV, you know, use the internet and stuff, but it's not, you know, they don't really hear English around them if they don't make a conscious choice. So now for writing, look, now a word about success criteria. We've all been in the situation where we've been told on different levels of our education, please write, 200 words about your holidays. Yes? Very often, you know, when my experience of observing less experienced teachers, a lesson might revolve around some vocabulary. Let's say, you know, very soon at the end of the holidays, there will be lessons about the holidays, yes, the vocabulary, or, you know, what you did, and so on and so on. And then at the end of the lesson, it would be, so now write about your holidays. Yes, just write something about your holidays. And we know that there are students who will just gladly say, oh, fantastic, I have so many things to say about my holidays, and I will be happy to do it in English as well. Yes, but most of the students will be honest, okay, so what? But what? Yes, what should I write? So again, the success criteria were even saying something simple like, okay, you are at a holiday camp. Well, of course, this you know, the topic of holidays can go in different directions, but at a holiday camp, write a short email to your friend from the camp. Yes, this already gives us some more information, but also things like, okay, look, we worked with the text on page 25, which is a model. You can use the model, and look at the verbs for holidays activities that we studied. Yes? Describe your typical day, start and finish your email correctly. If it's important, that's just an example. Yes? Of course, the list, the criteria will depend on what we are really looking for, because again, this is, you know, the teacher has to have an idea what the point of the activity is. Yes? It's not just, you know, write something, but we want to achieve some learning. So I know that teachers often, when we also feel, I experience the same thing, you know, time pressure, yes, all the time, you know, with all the years of experience, there was always this idea of I'm running out of time, and people would say, well, it's a waste of time to give so many instructions. Well, and that's really my one big point. I will mention it again when we get to feedback. We don't have a lot of time, so we have to think about how to use it wisely. So let's think about what to include and what to omit. Yes, and you know, my point is definitely that, okay, maybe we'll do one activity less. Yeah, so we'll not include something that we could do in the lesson, like an extra thing, an extra activity, an extra exercise. But let's explore this activity deeply, yeah, so that the real learning happens, and it's not just superficial. Just write something. Okay, maybe we'll read it, maybe not, whatever. And people say, we can say, well, okay, the very act of writing is important. Yes, but you know, if for most students, if it you know, it has no meaning. Yes, they will just put it on paper. Okay, the teacher will correct it. They will throw it away. So let's think about how, you know, maybe we want to extend an activity to make it more meaningful. Now for feedback, look. A very common conversation in a classroom, especially, you know, in a language classroom, of course, we have closed task, open task, but this is more for the closed tasks. Students have done a number of questions, yes, a number of points, like fill in the blanks, or multiple choice in this case. The teacher says, what's the answer to question? Let's say it was homework or classwork, yes? And now the feedback. So the teacher wants to see how well the students have done, and the students are supposed to see how well they've done, yes? What's the answer to question 1? Student 1 says A. And the teacher says, Anya, do you have the same answer? Asking another student, yes? Yes, I've got A. Very well. Who else has A? Almost everyone? Okay. And what's your answer to question 2? Jacek. So asking another student. B, are you sure? Anya, and what's your answer? No, I've got C. Jacek, so what's the correct answer? B or C? C, very well. So now question 3, what's the answer? Yes? So it's quite, of course, I'm exaggerating a little here, but honestly, that does happen. Yes, and again, okay, we can feel at the end of this kind of exchange that students have markedness, tick, 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 or cross, cross, cross. This is good. I have 7 points out of 15 or whatever, but what does it mean? What does it really mean? If something is wrong, it's wrong. I know it's wrong. I know what should be correct, but I don't know why. Yes. And now some ideas. Well, again, this is something that I'm sure in this community of teachers who are attending a seminar on a Sunday in the middle of the summer. Well, we all know, yes, feedback. The true feedback focuses on, gives information. Yes, clear. What was done well, what to improve, and not, so what to improve is sort of another way of saying, okay, this was not exactly fully okay, but we are not stopping at that, yes? How to improve and what to do next. I mentioned John Hattie already. Really, I find his input into formative assessment feedback, well, extremely valuable, yes? And all these precious thoughts from him, like when he says, oops, sorry. Grades or comments with no focus on improvement might interfere with learning. Yes, so whatever we just say, okay, this is correct, this is not correct. Well, do something. Or sometimes I remember my Polish teacher from secondary school, when we would write all kinds of compositions, like 10 pages on a topic and something, and she would give a mark, like in Poland we have, well, then it was grades from 2 to 5. Yes, 2 was failing, 5 very good, and she would give something like 3+, and she would say, make it better. Yes, it's okay, but make it better. But well, yeah, but I think it was good. Yeah. So what am I supposed to do now? So there was no learning. Student to teacher feedback more important than teacher to student feedback. Yes. Okay, we are giving students information about how they're doing, but we have to listen to them. So again, what they are getting from that. Effective feedback occurs when it's received and acted upon. So the action, and that's the point that I said I would come back to. Worry more about how students are receiving your feedback than increasing how much you give. So this is the time issue that I always feel, okay, so now I see those faces where, maybe I get some comments where I see that the things that is happening, the material in the classroom is not completely clear. So I have to stop and I have to get to the point, yes? And I have to, give students opportunities to really learn it, because otherwise, when there's some tendency for some teachers, okay, we have to move to the next activity. There's no point in moving to the next activity, yes? So how are the students receiving the feedback? Well, this is sometimes we feel it as teachers sometimes, but I already said it, yes? I told you, this is, I remember my driving teacher, he said, well, you're driving like this. I told you yesterday, you weren't supposed to do that. Well, you told me once yesterday and it's all new to me. I don't know, I haven't developed the skill, yes? Jones and William, fantastic. I'm giving, of course, the bibliography at the end. Fantastic ideas, like, when students, we are talking about getting the connection with the students, but we all know that very often we get, Some students participate a lot, others avoid the teacher's gaze. Yes? How to do that? They offer, and I've tried it, very nice ideas, you know, from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Okay, you are asked a question, you are not sure of the answer, phone a friend, ask somebody, yes? Or ask the audience, ask the whole class, or go 50-50. So the teacher or maybe another student will give you options. Well, you know, some will limit the options. And my favorite, I like to use it with, again, in different kinds of contexts, in English, in language classrooms, and also in teacher training classrooms. I don't know. Well, of course, we know that often it's not a just black and white answer, but generally when a student says, I don't know, and we know, you know, we want the students to participate. We don't want just to say, you know, I don't know. Okay, so you don't know, we are moving to the next person. I don't know. So two nice ideas. Okay, I'll come back to you. So listen to what other students have to say. Listen to what other students have to say, and something wrong with the, and now I'll come back to you. Which of these answers do you like best? Yes. And the fantastic question, yes, but if you did know, what would you say? So, well, of course, it's, you know, it's vague, but it's like, what? No? But it fosters reflection. And if students hear this question from time to time, they start thinking about it. Yes, they get used to it. Some students have answered correctly, some have not. Sometimes, you know, we get, maybe sometimes we might get a bit frustrated. Well, they didn't all answer. But again, a fantastic comment from William. You thought it's a teachable moment, yes? If somebody, you know, somebody didn't answer correctly, a teachable moment. You thought it was correct, why? You thought it was incorrect, why? So again, this is the moment where we want to spend time. Okay, let's just scratch the next activity. Let's focus on this. This is a teachable moment, why? And now, I know I probably need to finish in a few minutes, yes? So I have tons of, well, maybe sometime we can go back to it or we can get in touch. I'm sure you have lots of ideas for different kinds of techniques, also online techniques or tools for giving and getting formative assessment online. We know now with the pandemic, we got so much more, we have so many of these ideas of online, of different online tools. I have used some of them successfully and I like sharing it with teachers. So what I've got now, like I said, because there's really no way of us trying out there was no way of trying out all things, but even there is no way of trying out the selection of things. But I'm going to share with you the links. I'm sure you know most of these techniques, but I grouped them here into different techniques of different ways of, you know, what we do when we give feedback. Yes, we check the background knowledge, we check schemata, we check common misconceptions of the starting point. What do the students already know? That's always the kind of the first thing when we are teaching something new. So what do they already? They are never the blank slate. Yes, they always know something. So Google Forms, Mentimeter, Kahoot, Pear Deck, the add-on to Google Slides. Discussing concerns, uncertainties, yes? We can use charts, we can use Google Documents, slides, different boards, Padlet, Lino, whiteboard. I would like to try with you this one if we have time and if you want to. Jamboard, yes, fantastic, simple. Vocaroo for recording voice. Well, there's tons of software for that, but this is just so simple. Just record your voice, share it, and students can do the same. Practice tests, yes, well, Mentimeter, Google Forms, with the feedback option, where for the question and the different answers that the students give, the teacher can add a feedback option. And exit slips, yes, at the end of the lesson. Okay, we know we use exit slips just, you know, in the classroom. We can be a little piece of paper with some questions, some activity, but online, again, Mentimeter or Google Forms or Kahoot can be used for that. And now maybe let me check the chat because I see.
I have one question.
Yes.
How does this assessment help teachers and learners gain quality education?
Excuse me, can you repeat that?
For sure. How does this kind of assessment help teachers and learners gain quality education?
Well, I think this is, I mean, the main point here is that the quality is in the results. Yes? Well, again, the word results maybe brings to mind the diagrams again, but the results, the way I understand it, is the learning. Yes, the learning. So the way, you know, when we make sure that what we do gets to the students, that they understand it, yes, that they are with us, and that we ask them, we get information from them about how they are getting what we want to teach them. Well, this is the quality, yes. So the successful learning, the actual learning. Yes? So this is the how would be through the connection. Yes? Not building the wall between the teacher and the students, but through connecting. Because assessment in the traditional sense builds a kind of wall. Yes? The students offer, they write a test, so they give an answer. The teachers give the summative assessment, the traditional one, and that's it. And it's a kind of wall. So here there is a connection. So can I show you? Do we have time? Would you like to test one? I don't know if you know this tool, Whiteboard, which is fantastic. You know how for formative assessment, Dylan William talks about it a lot. How it's so important for every student to well, we don't need to hear it just from Dylan William, but every student needs to participate. And also in terms of like giving us feedback. So we ask a question, we want an answer from every student, yes? And we know how difficult it is to do. We have a number of students in the class, and now what? A limited time, how will they all answer? So there are all these different ways, like the traffic lights or different boards, like actual whiteboards. And this is the whiteboard online tool. Shall we test it? Oh, you use it. Okay, you use it. Would you like to, or should I finish now? Or shall we, maybe somebody could, shall we? Because I
think we can spare a couple of minutes.
Okay, all right. So let's try. Okay, how many we have? Because normally, what this tool works best with not more than 50 students. I mean, there is no limit on the number of students, but 50 is probably the top number for it to work well. But let me show you the whole idea. So you will have the link in the PDF, yes? So look, I just click, yes, whiteboard FI. I start a new class. I write my name, the teacher. I can write my email. You don't need to pay anything. You can start your account and pay a little to have more options, just like with most tools, but you can just use it just like that without an account, anything. And you can use all the facilities that it has, just like that. So I created a new class, and now if you could, maybe some of you on your phone or a separate tab on your computer, if you go to whiteboard.fi, yes, you go to this website, and it will ask you to put the room code, just like in Kahoot or these tools. Let's see. Okay, so you open the website, you see join class, you write the room code, and you join the class. Would anybody like to? Oh, great. Thanks, Christine. Oh, thank you. Thanks. Okay, so we have some students, fantastic. Okay, I have to hide our faces someplace. And now, very quickly, so what happens here? First of all, okay, so what you see, look, you see the students' boards. Okay, so I have 5 students here, exactly, and we already see Nirmala using the board. So when you are on the board, you can see, you can draw, you can write, you have a text box. You can write. You can type. Yes, you can type. You can draw. You can add. Some, yeah, thanks. You can add some shapes, yes? Oops. Oh, yeah, this is a new app. I will use it, yeah. And you see, and I'm sure now, well, you have experience. I'm sure you can already see, you already have ideas how to work with that. So I would say it's nice to do for when we teach in distance learning, yes, when we are away from the students, but also in the classroom. If there is a possibility, I know that's not always the case, but the possibility where students have their devices, yes, then even in the classroom, when everybody has their board, and I ask whatever question, yes, I ask a question, whether it's with closed questions, it's very simple, yes, when I'm asking you to give ABC or what's the word here, or what's your answer to this? So everybody just writes it, and you see, you are avoiding the situation where just one person answers and we don't really know what everybody else knows. Yes, we see all the answers at the same time. I love to use it for picture dictation. Yes, picture dictation. You know the idea. I will tell you, if you could please draw. You see, if we've got. The plus minus, where is the camera? Oh, no, it can't see. But at the bottom of your board, there is a plus minus. You can click plus. There would be another board. Yeah? So the board that you see, you can always erase this one, or you can start another one if you want to put more, and then the teacher will see. Oh, great, fair. Thank you. It's the engine which drives exactly. And fantastic, Farah, great, fantastic. Dora, are you yawning? Dora, thank you. So yeah, you can use more boards. So with picture dictation, if I tell you, if you could please draw a house, can you draw a house with a roof and a chimney? Are my students listening to me?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So, okay, Farah, thank you. A house is appearing. Beautiful. So, picture dictation, yes? You see, sometimes we can say, oh, beautiful, great. And you see, I see the connection. I see that Farah is listening to the instruction, following the instruction, and I'm getting the house. Oh, great, RJ, fantastic. Yeah, of course, we are just testing in this. Oh, beautiful. And we can move on. And of course, a student can give the instructions for picture dictation. You can, there is an option, you might be wondering, because sometimes maybe we don't really want everybody to, well, first of all, what we see here, this is on the screen, this is what the teacher sees, yes? So we can choose not to show it to all the students, you will be following the students' whiteboards, or you want to put it on the board, for everyone to see, but you may not want everybody to see all the names. So there is an option here, look, to hide the students' names, okay? So I can see, okay, how the students are doing, but it's not so much, kind of personal, yes? And we can refer to it, and you can go back to it, and so on. The teacher has his or her own board, yes? So I can do it here, and you can, you can see when you toggle the teacher's board, the students can see the teacher's board, and also what the teacher can do. Look, that's the last functionality that I will show you. I can push my board to the students, and an interesting option is push to the students as a background, where look, when you push it as a background, your students will be able to draw on your image, yes? So your image, so maybe some writing, you will start some writing, or you will start a picture, or you will ask a question or something, and the students will see that on their boards, and they will be able to add their answers or some pictures or to the board, yes? So thank you for trying this with me. I find it really useful for all kinds of different things, and it does include, you know, this very important aspect of formative assessment. We are in contact with everyone. We see what's happening from everyone. We see a whiteboard from somebody, you know, blank board. Okay, well, maybe there is some technology problem, or maybe there is an understanding problem. You know, we can address it. Yes? So just finishing, yeah, this is one of the activities that we did actually this was with an elementary group of teachers of other subjects. Yes, they are learning English, teachers of other subjects, and we did, you know, rooms, furniture, so that wasn't. Just to finish, if we have the chance to communicate, I mean, we always communicate with parents. Well, the type and quality of the communication, of course, varies, but the important point, let's think, well, to parents, other teachers, let's think about what happens in the classroom, you know, as you know, what did you, you know, what mark did you get? What did you do? Yes. Let's talk about learning. What did you learn? Yes. Did you like what you learned? Tell me what you learned. This will get us to the quality. In here you've got, I'm not planning to show it to you, but if you haven't seen it, a little YouTube video, the story of Austin's butterfly, about how students, this is not about language learning, but it's a beautiful video about how students give feedback to each other about, you know, the point of the act, about drawing. Yes, student is supposed to draw the butterfly, the very specific type of butterfly, but he starts with the first picture here in the top left, and you know, with the colleagues' feedback, he gets to this last beautiful outcome. So if you haven't seen it, look at it. This is produced by Ron Berger. Fantastic, really nice. So if I feel it, you know, when my students are on the English level where they can understand what the kids are saying, it's really great even to show it to the learners. That's my bibliography. I'm sorry, this is my, like I said, so many years of teaching, and I always need more time that I have. So thank you very much. The last slide is my Teacher Education Center. You've got the website, you've got my work email if you want to get in touch with me. And let me now stop and thank you very much. I see I will need to read all the nice comments if you want to. Okay, so I'm handing the mic to you if you want, and I will be pasting a PDF of my presentation and a PDF with the links. With the links to the online tools, yes, that I mentioned. So first of all, you will be getting this with all the tools. Well, like I said, I'm sure you know most of them, but maybe, you know, per deck, if you haven't tested it, well, we all speak English, so all the kind of tutorials and stuff, that's very simple. And they are all tools which are simple. I always use tools which are simple to use and are free, yes, and available. So thanks.